The senior counsel of the Alliance Defending Freedom, and opponent John Corvino, chair of the philosophy department at Wayne State University, also author of the upcoming book, Debating Religious Liberty, Tolerance, and Bigotry. And Ms. Wagner, let me begin with you. Respond to these boycotts from Bruce Springsteen, from the big businesses who say this kind of legislation is just a license to discriminate.
Well, that's absolutely not true, and we should dispel the notion of service right now. There is no evidence that those who identify as gay or lesbian have been denied service, but what there is evidence of is how these laws are being used against real people, creative professionals, who simply want to live peacefully and consistently and create custom work that is consistent with their religious beliefs. All Americans should have the right to live consistently with their religious beliefs. This is not about any type of denial of service, but simply the ability to engage in the creative profession consistent with one's convictions.
You use that phrase, creative profession. John Corvino, take that on right there. Why should a baker or a photographer be forced to work at a wedding they don't want to work at?
Well, one of the things that's important to recognize is these laws aren't just about the creative professions. The law in Mississippi is so broad that it covers discrimination in housing, in employment. It covers discrimination on the basis of anytime a person offers a religious objection. And when you think about it, people have religious objections not just to same-sex marriage, but some people have religious objections to interfaith marriage. Some people have religious objections to remarriage after divorce. People should, of course, have the right to believe what they want to believe and to practice their religious beliefs. But when they enter the public arena, when they are opening a business that's supposedly open to the public, it's not right for them to discriminate in services and goods.
Kristen, I saw you shaking your head. I want to give you a chance to respond, but there's also a provision in the North Carolina bill that strips the ability of people to sue under the state discrimination law. And opponents of the law said if you're fired because of your race or gender or religion, you no longer have a basic remedy.
Well, that's absolutely not true. That's not the case. And first of all, if we want to talk about what these laws actually do, North Carolina specifically, there are two components of the North Carolina law. The first is a common sense provision that would restrict men from accessing girls' locker rooms. It's for the safety and security, for privacy of not only our women and children, but our men. We don't want to have to undress in front of someone who is of the opposite biological sex.
Well, you brought that up. How is that going to be enforced? You have to go back to you can only use a restroom that is the restroom that's on your birth certificate. How is the state going to enforce that?
The same way that they're enforcing it and have enforced it the last 200 years. You simply respond to complaints that are received. But what we have seen when these types of laws have been passed in other states that allow men to access the women's restroom, those laws are misused and they violate the safety and security of people. We should have a reasonable expectation of privacy to go into a locker room and not have to undress in front of someone of the opposite biological sex. It's common sense.
What's the answer to that, John?
The idea that this is about safety and security, it's kind of like when somebody says that they ate all the ice cream in order to make room in the freezer. I mean, it's just obvious that that's not the real reason. This is about discrimination, particularly against transgender people. And one of the reasons that's really sad is that our nation's history of protecting religious liberty has traditionally been about protecting marginalized groups, protecting people of minority faiths against the majority who try to marginalize them. Instead, we have a perversion of the notion of religious liberty to further marginalize people who are already vulnerable. There are absolutely no cases of transgender people trying to use these laws in order to commit assault or to threaten people's safety in bathrooms, whereas there are many cases of transgender people suffering bullying and assault and violence because they can't have a safe and comfortable bathroom to use.
Kristen?
That is absolutely not true. There are multiple cases of those who may not be transgender, but those men who are using these laws to gain access to women and children in restrooms. These cases are documented.
How are these? If a man goes into a restroom to assault somebody, that's against the law. That has nothing to do with prohibiting transgender people who just want a safe and comfortable place to use the bathroom from using the bathroom that matches their gender identity.
Then they can use the bathroom in a private facility, just as everyone can. These laws are gender neutral in terms of they're not discriminating on the basis of how one identifies. They're simply saying that you go to a restroom or a private facility and you have a reasonable expectation of privacy there. But I want to get to the real victims.
I wish we could, but I'm afraid we are out of time. We're going to have to come back to this issue. Thank you both very much for your time this morning. And we'll be right back after this from our ABC stations.